What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Carlos Berrio, the Sports Pain Jedi, and we are just chatting today about power. Uh, got a little bruise right here, working on a truck in my spare time, and I dropped a ratchet right on my freaking head in the engine. But anyway, I digress. So, I had a question from the last one about how you sort of structure things. Talks about over the competitive year how important it is to phase the points, the objective of the different phases of your training, whether you're in the or pre or post season phases. And then we started to talk about like, okay, well, when do you train for strength and power? And actually, this came, of course, offline, but I figured I would talk about it. As you can see in the thumbnail, we see quite a few folks of massive proportion, many of which go on and play all kinds of different sports and fun little games. So we just want them to be able to do that as long as possible. And every athlete has a different requirement. If you're a golfer, you have different movement requirements. If you're a baseball player, you have different movement requirements. If you prefer gardening or cooking, you have different movement requirements, time that your body will spend under tension, and that can be taught, that can be coached, that can be made more efficient, and that's always what we're looking for. So the basics on power, I want people just to understand, is power is more so your ability to move weight, move load, mass through space and do it quickly. Think of a broad jump, standing in one place and jumping straight out as far forward as you can. So if you have two different athletes lined up and one or two different folks, it doesn't matter, athlete, your grandma, 120-pound granny and a 200-pound grandpa, and they are both jumping 4 feet, broad jump. And that's not a huge broad jump for folks up there in age, and especially if you're a grandpa at 200 pounds, jumping 4 feet might be pretty impressive. But if those two folks jumped 4 feet, one might say, well, look, they both have the same amount of power. They were both able to propel themselves 4 feet forward in space. And yeah, okay, that's true. But the person who is of a heavier mass did a greater physical feat, in that this mass takes more energy to move, to get moving, to keep moving, and then to control when it lands. So the person who has a larger mass, in that case, is more powerful. When do you need the training power, or when is power important, and when is bulletproofing and injury risk reduction important? The injury risk reduction bit happens at all times, and there should be phases inside of here when we're doing some deloading process and just addressing soft tissue injury or normal things that happen in the course of using your body at a high speed and at a high volume. So that part's always mixed in. But generally speaking, we train strength, slow movements, heavier loads with longer rest periods in the off season, when we might consider this to be, and we're in around about September. And so right now, our baseball athletes are sort of winding down. Some folks are still playing some fall baseball, but the ones who are going to be playing into the future are starting to really wind down their playing and their coaching activities and get more into kind of our deload phasing. And we'll be doing our baseball testing, combine things in October, November timeframe, and then they'll start their off-season program, which will last about 12 weeks. And the idea there is you're taking this time when we're not in the sport, when we're not doing our high volume work. And if it's, if you're a late person, it might be in the winter when you're not golfing specifically. You're just doing, maybe you're doing some things to make your golf game better as the weather changes. You're going to the gym, or you're doing exercises that your physical therapist or your doctor or your trainer said, hey, these might be good for hitting the ball a little longer or preventing some back pain. So you would do that stuff in the winter. And so that would be considered more your strength days. Now, the issue we've seen a lot is people not understanding what strength training is versus power training and versus some nonsense they saw on YouTube. Right? But when you don't know one source from another, you think, okay, that exercise looks like it makes sense, but it might contextually not make any sense for you at all. So understanding that strength training should generally look like heavy loads, long rest periods between, what's long? 3 minutes, 2 minutes relative to a work set of 20 to 30 seconds, but with loads that are tough to handle and loads that really want to squish you. I think I like to describe this as grabbing things that want to crush you like a can and doing movement with that force on you and not allowing that to happen. It's very good to just sort of set the middle of our body, give us good awareness of where we are in space. But from there, if we're strong and it's hard to crush us like a can, then it's going to be hard to move us if we don't want to be moved. And in that way, it provides a great platform for our shoulder blade muscles or hips muscles to push and pull from, and makes us very efficient. And I digress. But strength, like I had said, looks like heavy, big range, lots of rest, lots of nutrition to support the growing muscle. And when we train to power, many times in an athlete conditioning program, we're working that strength over the course of their off season, and then as their season approaches, we're doing more quick twitch, more fast movement, lighter loads, moved quickly, with maybe slightly longer periods of work, because we're trying to mimic now more the sporting environment. And as we approach the seasons, the actual seasons, or it's tryouts time, or it's the golf clubs opened up and everyone's starting to get shake their rust loose. This is the time when we're starting to move fast. We're doing things that actually look kind of like sport, and many times we see programming that sort of doesn't place a distinction between this is a power movement or a strength movement. And so you see people doing power and explosiveness and agility, and I don't know how many times I've seen baseball players working agility drills and ladders in December. January might actually be appropriate, but December and November, I'm like, when was the last time any baseball athlete needed to be as agile as possible in November, December? It's just a waste of energy resource. When we can use that energy to be building our thick layer of strength so that we can push and pull from that when it's time to train agility, power, speed, explosiveness as we approach the season. And in doing it that way, we are bulletproofing ourselves. If you're ticking away constantly at the ice sculpture in the winter with all this volume and reps, you're not gonna have anything left in the spring when it comes to come around. And now it's competition time, so now you have to move fast and you have to move without regard for safety. You go and get it. And in that way, we're on an edge, very razor thin edge of that catastrophic failure to performance thing. And the professionals do it well, and people who use their body for a long time, who develop habits, do that well. But our younger folks and our amateur athletes, especially our adult amateur athletes, sometimes just need that education. We're happy to provide that. So that's the difference between power and strength. That is the idea about when you might incorporate training one versus the other. I would encourage you to find a great coach. I would encourage you to interview a bunch of coaches. I would encourage you to interview a bunch of physical therapists who are also coaches. That's not as common a thing. Fortunately, here we get to experience, we get to demonstrate the breadth of what we do, from the performance all the way to pain side when we're doing manual therapy and dry needling. That stuff's so fun. But we really just do that to get people back up, moving, doing the things that look and feel like the soul-filling activity that people want to do, because that's really what it's about. So I haven't got any questions yet, and again, I know I'll be talking to myself, so we're going to be filling some of this content here with interesting topics that we get on after the fact, which is going to happen a lot. And any questions that you guys have, we'll turn it into topics to discuss. And as I figure out how to do this, it'll look prettier and it'll be more fun. We'll do some giveaways, but this is just a great way, I think, to get some of our ideas out there, some of our approach out there, and let people know you don't have to accept being seen for 10 minutes at a time at a therapy office, or saying, okay, great, you can sit up now, and that's all your insurance is going to pay for. Hope you have a great life. No, you don't want to just have no pain sitting up. You want to have no pain gardening. You want to have no pain golfing. You want to have no pain doing the laundry. You want to have no fear of throwing your back out when you break the leaves. Like, that's what you want, and that's we want that for you. So let us help you. Tell your friends. Go move. Bye.